right, class, we are back, and we talked about Jamestown, and today we are talking about John Smith, who was part of Jamestown. If it wasn't for him, the colony probably wouldn't survive the first few years. So that's who we're talking about today. We're talking about his biography, where how he grew up, what happened with him. John Smith, a lot of the stuff he told was true, but a lot of it was embellished a little bit, which means he told some white lies along with it. So and made the story bigger than what it actually was, or told things a little bit different from what actually happened. But he was a very important part of the Jamestown colony, and them surviving the first few years before he got hurt, and they had the starving time. But we're gonna go over all that, and that's what we're talking about today. John Smith.
Biography, John Smith.
All right, so he was born in Willoughby, England in 1580. His father was a farmer, rented land from the local lord, and he was able to attend grammar school and teens, but at the age of 16, his father died. So he was on his own after that. So he set off to living a life of adventure after that.
Growing up, John Smith was born in Willoughby, England in 1580. His father was a farmer who rented land from the local lord. John was able to attend grammar school in his teens, but at the age of 16, his father died. John now had to make his way on his own. Being a tough and daring young man, John set off to live a life of adventure.
So after leaving home, he worked for a time as a seaman, and then became a mercenary or a soldier for hire. And first he went to Europe and he fought for Dutch independence, and after that he went to Hungary to fight the Ottoman Turks. And he says while he was in Hungary, he fought 3 duels against Turkish commanders, and he won all 3. And he said also he claimed to have beheaded the commanders. Whether this story is true or not, some of it may be true, some of it may be not. Like I said, he had a tendency to over-exaggerate his stories.
Adventures. After leaving home, John worked for a time as a seaman and then became a mercenary, a soldier for hire. First, he fought in Europe for the Dutch independence. After that, he went to Hungary to fight against the Ottoman Turks. While in Hungary fighting the Turks, Smith fought 3 duels against Turkish commanders. He won all 3 duels and claimed to have beheaded the commanders.
All right. So they weren't all a success, all of his ventures weren't. In 1602, he was captured and then sold into slavery, but eventually he escaped and made his way all the way back to England. And that's when he picked up with the Virginia Company and decided to go to Jamestown. They were starting a colony. We'll get to that in the next slide.
Adventures continued. Smith's adventures weren't all a success, however. In 1602, he was captured and sold into slavery. Eventually, Smith escaped and managed to travel all the way across Europe in order to return to England in 1604.
So he came back to England. He joined the Virginia Company, like I said, to start the settlement in Virginia, which was Jamestown. It became known as Jamestown, and it was the first permanent English colony in North America.
Traveling to America, not long after returning to England, Smith joined the Virginia Company to start a settlement in Virginia. The settlement would become known as Jamestown and would be the first permanent English colony in North America. 3 ships, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, left England in late 1606 and arrived in Virginia in April of 1607.
All right, so during this voyage, Smith, he had a tendency to run his mouth sometimes, all right? He spoke out against the English government and the captain of the ship. And so he was arrested for mutiny on board the ship. And they were going to, once they got there, they were going to execute him when they arrived in Virginia. But they opened up their orders from the Virginia Company, and one of the orders stated that Smith was to be one of the leaders of the colony, so he didn't get executed. He was almost executed, or would have been executed, but he wasn't. So as a result, he was released, and his life was spared.
Almost executed. During the voyage, Smith spoke out against the English government as well as the captain of the expedition. He was arrested for mutiny and locked up. The captain had planned to execute Smith when they arrived in Virginia. Fortunately for Smith, the first thing the expedition did when they arrived was to open a box from the Virginia Company containing their orders. One of the orders stated that Smith was to be one of the leaders of the colony. As a result, he was released and his life spared.
All right. So the first few years of this colony, as we talked about the other day, it was difficult. Many people died from disease, from starvation. They had bad water because of where they had made their settlement at. A lot of the guys didn't want to work. They would rather go look for gold, and a few of them knew how to farm, fish, or hunt. But John Smith became the president of the colony in 1608, and he implemented some rules that actually saved the colony.
Jamestown Colony. The first few years of the colony was difficult. Many people died from disease and starvation. Most of the settlers, all men, were only searching for treasure. They didn't want to work, and few of them knew how to farm, fish, or hunt. In the summer of 1608, John Smith became the president of the colony.
All right, so as the leader, he was tough. Okay, he was tough on them because he was different from them. He's an experienced sailor. He was not a gentleman like most of them were. However, they didn't like him, but they did recognize he was a strong leader and he would keep them alive. And one of his rules was if you don't work, you don't eat. And as you can see right here, that's if you don't work, you don't eat. That was one of his rules that he came up with to get people to work and to try to get this colony above water.
Leader of Jamestown. As a leader, Smith was tough and egotistical. Few of the settlers liked him. However, they did recognize that he was a strong leader and would keep them alive. Smith demanded that everyone at the settlement work. His rule was, if you don't work, you don't eat.
All right. So he also knew that they needed to establish a relationship with the Native Americans, the Powhatan tribe, okay, or Powhatan tribe. And so he went to meet with their leader and was captured. And the story goes he would likely have been killed had it not been for the Powhatan's chief's daughter, Pocahontas. All right. Some of this may be true, some of it may not be. She was a lot younger than him. He was like 27 to 30 years old, and she was 11 or something like the time. So anything Disney tells you about that, John Smith and Pocahontas is not true. They did not have a relationship with each other like that. So, but Pocahontas pled for his life, according to the story, and so the Powhatan chief decided to release him. And when they did, the relationship between the settlers and the tribe started getting better.
Leader of Jamestown continued. Smith also knew that the colony needed to establish better relations with the Powhatan people, the local Native American tribe. He bravely went to meet with their leader and was captured. He likely would have been killed had it not been for the Powhatan chief's daughter, Pocahontas. Pocahontas pled for John Smith's life, and the Powhatan chief decided to release him. After this encounter, the relationship between the colonists and the local tribes improved.
Okay. So he went on, it got improved. The colony started improving, but then he got hurt. So, and he had to go back to England. So after recovering from this injury, he came back and he led an expedition to explore the northern coast of America. And he mapped out the coast, and he named the land New England and mapped that northeastern coast. That's another thing that he did aside from Jamestown.
Exploring New England. After recovering from his injuries, Smith was ready for more adventure. He led an expedition to explore the northern coast of America. He named the land New England and mapped the northeastern coastline.
All right, so after returning to London, Smith retired, and he started writing these detailed descriptions of his adventures. Like I said, some of these adventures were true. They had facts in them, but he tended to make them bigger than what they were and tended to lie some, all right, and embellish his stories quite a bit. So, but he died in London on June 21st, 1631. He was very important and instrumental in keeping the Jamestown colony afloat until it started thriving after tobacco came with John Rolfe, came into the equation with him. So that's what he's remembered for.
Death and legacy. After returning to London, Smith retired to write detailed descriptions of his adventures. Although much of what he wrote about did did actually happen. Smith also tended to embellish his stories quite a bit. Smith died in London on June 21st, 1631.
All right, so number one, comprehension question: where was John Smith born? Was he born in Jamestown? Was he born in Willoughby, England, or was he born at the Plymouth Colony? He was born in Willoughby, England in 1580.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number two, what did Smith do for work when he was young? When he was younger, what did he do for work? Was it A, was he a soldier, B, a doctor, or C, nothing? He didn't work. It is A, he was a soldier. He was a seaman first, and then he became a soldier or a mercenary for hire.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number three, what colony did he help establish? Was it A, the Plymouth Colony, B, nothing, or C, Jamestown? It is C, Jamestown. It was the first permanent English settlement in North America.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number four, who saved John Smith's life from the Powhatan? Was it A, Pocahontas, B, Walter Raleigh, or C, Squanto? It is A, Pocahontas. She saved his life. She told the chief not to kill him, and according to the story anyway.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number five, what coastline did he map? A, the Plymouth Colony, B, Willoughby, England, or C, New England? He mapped the coastline of New England. Is the correct answer C.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
All right, that is all for today. We will be back next week talking about the Pilgrims and the Plymouth Colony, and also talking about the Puritans. You all have a good week.